We shoved our way through the mangled back end of our ship and stepped onto the smoldering surface of the planet called Ada.
Wonderful. Just wonderful.
The female Earthling pushed ahead of us.
We need to find a place to hole up.
What exactly were you trying to do? Get us all killed?
Save some lives, which is more than I could say for you.
What are you getting at, little fella?
It took everything in my power not to physically attack August. How could you let me and Rusty get taken?
What should I have done? Get sucked out with you? What good would that have done? I'll tell you what, no good. That's what good.
Rusty's voice rang out from the female Earthling's wrist.
Kilroy is heading your way, Master. He is not the word happy.
Rusty, can you get yourself off that ship?
I am outside of the ship, Master.
Stay put. We're coming for you.
The female Earthling aimed her rifle toward the horizon and marched into the smoldering maze of twisted metal that sat all around us.
Sometimes I think she has a death wish.
In the distance stood Kilroy's mighty vessel. The nose of the massive ship was buried deep into the planet's surface, while the rest of the ship jutted high into the sky like a black tombstone.
Dean, come over here.
August and I jogged over to the female Earthling, near what appeared to be a burnt-out food silo. While she scanned what was left of the silo, August knocked on the burnt-out building, then pointed at a small, jagged hole in the wall.
Wonder what lives in there.
The female Earthling scanned the hole.
Nothing.
The female Earthling bent down and peeked inside the small hole.
We're going through.
August searched left, then right.
Can't we go around?
Only if you want to walk through boiling pools of mercury.
August turned up his nose.
Well, I can't fit through that hole.
I raised my hand. I'll send Tiku.
Teak who?
I took a breath and sent Tiku into the hole, but my ribs were so sore from the crash, I found it difficult to breathe properly. Tiku flashed in and out of my head, then faded completely. We needed another plan, and by the look and size of the hole, it appeared I may be the one going in. I'll go. The female Earthling kicked some of the sand away from the hole, then patted me on the shoulder.
If you see anything, give us a shout.
I wiggled my way through the hole, hoping not to run into anything hairy, scaly, or with big teeth. It was dark, but there was just enough light to see an opening at the other end. I quietly scrambled across the ground, then squatted down to peek out the other side.
Kilroy is not close, sir.
I whacked my head on the jagged edge of the hole upon hearing Rusty's voice. Rusty, it's great to see you.
It is the word great to see you, sir.
Remembering I still had it, I reached back and retrieved Rusty's wrench from my boot. I have something for you. I held the wrench out for Rusty, but he did not respond. Well, do you want it? Rusty's eyes glowed bright red, then faded.
May I ask you to hold it for me, sir?
Of course.
Kilroy is close, sir.
Wait, I thought you said he wasn't close.
He moves quickly, sir.
I twisted back into the hole and yelled,
Kilroy's here!
A sharp metallic hand grabbed hold of my ankle and yanked me backward through the hole. I knew immediately who it was. Kilroy twisted my leg, sending waves of pain into my hip. I clawed at the ground in my futile attempt to escape. He's got me! I searched for the female Earthling in August, but found neither. I swung at Kilroy, but failed to land any punches. Kilroy squeezed my ankle harder. Please, someone help! As I swung upside down, I noticed the female Earthling's rifle peek out from the silo hole. I swung myself out of range as she fired a shot and hit Kilroy in the head. Kilroy stumbled back, then dropped me to the ground awkwardly. I attempted to crawl away, but the beast stomped on my leg and pinned me to the ground. Then the metallic beast grabbed hold of the female Earthling's rifle barrel and snapped it clean off.
Kilroy knows the way to Earth, sir.
Kilroy removed a green sphere from off his arm and tossed it back through the silo hole.
Due to your soft exterior, you should find shelter, sir.
Heeding Rusty's warning, I wiggled a loose piece of metal from the sand and covered myself. A quick bang sent sand and hot shards everywhere, as Kilroy charged through the now gaped hole in the silo wall.
Do you need help, sir?
We need to stop him, Rusty. We can't let him get to Earth. The sound of quick-moving boots turned my attention from Rusty. But before I could react, August ran by, grabbed hold of me, and dragged me off into the opposite direction, leaving Rusty behind. What are you doing?
Clearly, I'm saving you.
August carried me up a steep rocky embankment toward a very large burnt-out engine. He shoved me into a small hole in the sand and sat nearby with both guns drawn. We waited, silently, for what seemed like forever, as the sound of distant explosions and war took place all around us. Where is she?
Beats me.
We both watched as a long warship crashed in the distance. Smoke filled the horizon, turning the sky milky gray.
I'm sorry.
What? He turned to face me, guns aimed out in front of him.
You and her, you got that thing. You'll risk your lives to save others or do the right thing. I don't even know what the right thing is.
It must be in you somewhere. You dragged me up here.
Trust me, little fella, it isn't there. It's like I have this voice in my head always telling me to save myself.
Then why are you protecting me right now? August searched his thoughts.
I guess the voice told me to.
We sat there, quietly, as another ship crashed into the horizon.
You know what's sad? You, her, even that rustpot. You're the closest they've ever come to having friends.
A distant pop drew August's attention. He held his pistol steady, searching for any sign of trouble. I pitied August. He was more alone in the universe than Rusty ever was. The Earth transmissions taught me how important friendship was. Even just one friend made all the difference in the world. I placed my hand on August's shoulder. I forgive you, August. You're a good friend.
Thanks, little fella.
August clenched his pistols tight.
Now let's waste this yak flagger before the voice in my head tells me to run away and leave you for dead.
Dusk fell over the worn-torn planet of Ada, and with it came Kilroy. The metallic beast approached slowly, with a rough-looking bag tossed over its shoulder.
Look who decided to show up.
August let loose with both pistols, but the shots ricocheted harmlessly off Kilroy's metal frame.
Let's try that again.
August fired at the beast's jagged knees, buckling Kilroy, but only for a moment. What now?
Guess I'm gonna have to use Tiny Tinga.
August yanked a small yellow triangle from one of his buckles and tossed it at Kilroy's heavy frame, engulfing the beast's torso and left arm in blue flames. Kilroy tore a hose from his right arm and doused the flames with some sort of thick honey-like liquid, putting out the fire.
Oh, for frup's sake.
Kilroy lurched down, grabbed August by his neck, and jerked him into the air. I clung to August's boot, accidentally snapping off one of his buckles. August gagged and coughed as his feet left the ground.
Run, little fella. I got this.
August punched and kicked at the metallic beast. Blood dripped from August's forearms and hands. I charged at Kilroy with a broken buckle, but was stopped by a powerful kick to the chest.
This isn't working.
August punched over and over. All three of Kilroy's eyes flamed deep red as the beast thrust August high above the ground, then shook him furiously. No! August's arms dropped to his sides, motionless. Kilroy launched August's limp body into a pile of girders, then turned towards me. Get away from my friend! The beast lunged at me. I dodged and accidentally lodged my foot in a burnt-out pipe. I fought to dislodge my foot as Kilroy stepped closer. His eyes dimmed. He reached out once more, then paused as a familiar voice rang out.
Domo arigato, Mr. Roboto.
Kilroy launched a bolt of electric over my shoulder toward the female Earthling, but missed. She rolled left and popped up with a quick blast from her pistol. hitting him dead center of his forehead. Fluid pooled in Kilroy's left eye, then spilled out onto the ground.
I like your new ride. Maybe I'll take that one too.
Kilroy tossed several spikes at the female Earthling's feet, knocking her backward. She popped back up with a quick handspring and fired off 2 shots of green goo at Kilroy's eyes. He lurched back and set loose a net from his forearm, wrapping her up. She slipped a large blade from her boot, slashed the net, rolled backward, then pulled another blade from her forearm.
It's been a while. Kinda missed this.
She took off running toward the metallic beast, dropped to her knees, slid between Kilroy's legs, and slashed the thick tube that snaked up the beast's grotesque thigh. Kilroy's leg buckled as the female Earthling twisted around and plunged both blades into the beast's lower back.
You can keep those.
Kilroy smacked the female Earthling across the chest, launching her into the dirt. The beast fired another bolt of electric, hitting several rusted frames dangling above. A piece fractured and fell, shearing the sleeve from the female Earthling's right arm.
You're losing your touch.
Kilroy paused. His 2 remaining eyes dimmed. The female Earthling stared back at the beast.
Getting tired?
Kilroy's eyes faded to black, and for a moment, I thought she had finally defeated the beast. But I was wrong. Kilroy's eyes lit up and glowed like 1,000 suns as he reached into the rough bag on his back and revealed a horrible surprise. Gavone's severed head. Kilroy held it high and tossed it at the female Earthling's feet.
You bastard.
Kilroy raised his arm and smashed the ground, letting loose a massive shockwave that sent the female Earthling through the air. She flipped twice and landed head first into a wall of metal, knocking her unconscious. Then, Kilroy turned to me. I stepped back, trying to gain some space, but it was no use. The beast wrapped his metallic hands around my throat and lifted me to eye level. He reeked of decay, like a can of meat left in the sun to rot. I ordered the beast to let me go, but that just caused him to squeeze my neck tighter. And soon, it grew too hard to breathe. I tried to break free, but that just made it worse. Time was running out. Kilroy was going to defeat us all, then travel to Earth and do unspeakable things. As the corners of my eyes grew dark, I spotted Rusty rolling up behind Kilroy. Then I heard Rusty's voice ring out.
Just sulky fear dying alone.
Kilroy paused.
It is what they fear most, sir.
Kilroy's grip lessened. But I wasn't naive enough to think he would let me go. The beast studied me for a moment, then bent down and held me to the ground. I struggled to break free as Rusty handed Kilroy a heavy iron shackle.
Rusty, please no!
The beast latched the shackle to my wrist, then chained the other end to a large metal girder. I fought to break loose as Kilroy looked on. He seemed to enjoy watching me struggle in fear. In fact, I was quite sure of it.
We should leave, sir.
Rusty said to Kilroy.
The Life Enders will be at the rendezvous point soon.
Kilroy turned to Rusty, then back to me.
Leave him to die alone, sir. It is what he fears most.
Kilroy turned away from me, grabbed hold of the female Earthling and August by their legs, and left toward his ship. Rusty followed the beast, looking back only for a moment.
Rusty! Don't leave me here!
I yanked and clawed at the shackle, but it was no use. I debated breaking my thumb to escape, then realized it wouldn't make a difference. The shackle was too tight. I looked back. Kilroy was almost out of view. Time was running out. Think, Dean. Think. I studied the shackle. One bolt held my bonds in place. I searched for something to pry it off or bend the chain. Then I remembered. Rusty's wrench. I slid the wrench from my boot and slipped it around the bolt. It fit just enough to loosen my bonds. I went to work unscrewing the bolt. peeking over my shoulder with every turn of the wrench. Eventually, Kilroy faded into the hazy distance. If not for Rusty's glowing eyes, I'd have lost sight of them completely. 2 more turns and the shackle fell to the ground. I was free. I moved fast, leaping over smoldering shards of metal, sprinting across rock and sand until my legs ached and my lungs burnt. But I gained on Kilroy with every step. Behind his left ear. Limited protection. All worry fell aside as I focused on the back of the beast's head. I held Rusty's wrench tight. 3 steps, 2 steps, 1. I leaped onto Kilroy's back, dug my foot behind a loose wire, raised Rusty's wrench over my head, and slammed the wrench against Kilroy's skull. Missing my target. Kilroy reached back, grabbed a fistful of my shirt, and flung me over his head. I tumbled through the air, crashing upside down against a crumpled water drum. Captain! August! I searched for Rusty's wrench as the robotic beast grabbed hold of my leg and yanked me into the air. I dangled upside down, shirt draped over my eyes, and waited for Kilroy's wrath.
You dropped this, sir?
I peeked out from under my shirt and spotted Rusty, arm outstretched, his wrench inches from my nose. As I took the wrench, Kilroy swung his mighty arm backward and struck Rusty in the chest with a crushing blow. Rusty tumbled across the ground, coming to a hard stop against a pile of smoldering cables. My robotic friend's eyes flickered, then faded. Kilroy reached down, grabbed my leg, and lifted me off the ground. I dangled helplessly as August and the female Earthling lay in the distance, Rusty, immobile, and sparking from the neck. It was a slaughter, and now I was alone. Alone with Kilroy. I will not let you get to Earth. Kilroy lifted me above his head and cocked back his free arm. I will not let you get to Earth. Kilroy smashed his fist into my spine. I jolted forward, nearly losing my breath. Then another punch to the back, this time harder. His sharp knuckles sliced through my shirt and pierced my skin. Then another punch, and another. Kilroy was slowly killing me. I sucked in a gulp of air and held my breath. Tico appeared and circled wildly, then faded when the next punch landed in my back. I gripped the wrench tight and did my best not to pass out as another punch landed.
Time to kill him, sir.
Kilroy paused his assault as Rusty's internal gears roared into motion. Hope appeared to be fading until Kilroy lurched around to peer at Rusty, exposing the back of the beast's head. With every last ounce of energy, I swung my body forward and thrust Rusty's wrench deep into Kilroy's skull, just behind the left ear. Kilroy released a gurgled roar as he reached back, missed, then crashed backward onto the ground. Kilroy flailed wildly as I drove the wrench deeper into his soft skull. His sharp frame punctured my back and legs. I wiggled myself into the sand as the beast slowed his assault, then stopped altogether. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. Pain radiated throughout my body. But in that moment, I was satisfied. I had done my job. Earth was safe. Terra was safe. An uncontrollable manic laugh trickled from me as I lay there, half unconscious and slowly being crushed to death. The sky turned a dark red, and everything seemed too dull. The sounds, the smells. Then a voice rang out, just above my head.
Let me help you, sir.
The monster rose with the help of a robotic hand. Rusty's hand. I rolled out of harm's way and laid there, in the oil-soaked sand, for what seemed like hours. It was a fight to stay awake, and I felt myself drifting in and out of consciousness. It is done. But eventually my mind turned to worry as I mustered the strength to check on the female Earthling in August. I dragged my body through the sand, and soon found myself near the female Earthling. Her eyes rolled back in her head, then returned for a brief moment.
Behind the ear?
I nodded.
Dean, protector of Earth.
Can you stand? She shook her head, then peered toward the sky.
Go!
I wanted to try and sit her up, but dared not touch her.
We should go, sir.
My head hovered in a bubble of fog. Kilroy lay dead. August sat crumpled and motionless, and the female Earthling was fading fast.
We must go, sir.
Rusty pointed to the sky. A warship, with flames flowing from its back engines, was headed straight toward us. Hot debris whistled all around as I grabbed the female Earthling by the pant leg, but she was too heavy for me to move. Help me! Get them to the ship! Rusty grabbed hold of both the female Earthling and August, then slowly dragged the two through the sand towards Kilroy's ship. Singed metal rained down and burnt small holes in my shirt as I raced ahead of Rusty. I looked toward the sky as the damaged warship whistled through the atmosphere. There was little time left. I climbed up Kilroy's massive vessel, opened the first hatch I came upon, and waved Rusty to hurry. Rusty's wobbly wheels slugged through the sandy soil, but with a bit of help, he managed to drag both August and the female Earthling through the hatch and into Kilroy's ship. Inside, the cockpit was bare and clean, and there were no windows to navigate by. The ship smelled strange, like rotting piltworms on a hot summer day, but there was no time to explore. Can this ship survive a direct hit?
There is a 71.4% chance the ship will survive without any significant damage, sir.
Not good enough. How do we get this thing off the ground? Rusty wobbled to the controls.
May I, sir?
Rusty fired up the engines and drove the ship backward. Without any windows, I could not tell if the damaged warship was close, but the whistling grew louder.
Brace for impact, sir.
Whistles turned to roars as I was violently thrust to the ground, but there were no alarms, smoke, sparks, or fire. Across the cold floor I laid, waiting for more impacts, but none came. It appeared Kilroy's ship held together. Are we out of danger?
Presently, sir.
I collapsed in exhaustion. Are they alive? Are they both alive?